And that interview on Tuesday, on Election Day. And hey, with Trump teasing a major announcement, at the same time, he's criticizing two sitting Republican governors. Is this setting up a Republican split for 2024? Let's bring back in Niall Stanage from the Hill. Niall, what do you make of Trump criticizing both Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and also Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin?
I think in the case of Governor DeSantis, Marky, the former president clearly sees him as a threat. We were talking earlier in the show about how the former president didn't have a good night in terms of the midterm elections on Tuesday. By contrast, Governor DeSantis had a great night, winning re-election in Florida by 20 points, a state that has been seen as a battleground. I mean, we may have to reclassify it now, but it certainly was a battleground. So I think in that respect, Trump is feeling the rivalry sharpen between the two of them and obviously wants to establish his dominance over Governor DeSantis. And it's worth mentioning that the former president would still be the favourite for the Republican nomination. Glenn Youngkin, the decision by former President Trump to take on Governor Youngkin was an interesting one because Glenn Youngkin is admired in many Republican circles, having won the governorship of Virginia last year, just 1 year after President Biden had carried that state fairly comfortably. So that was a curious decision on the former president's part, and one that has caused, I think, some unease in Republican circles, certainly here in the D.C. area.
And, you know, Trump has teased that big announcement this coming week, 9 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday from Mar-a-Lago. It's an announcement many assume will reveal his intentions to run for the White House again. With DeSantis also seen as a GOP frontrunner, though, in 2 years, could this split the Republican base?
It could potentially, partly because it would be a very personalised contest, and we're already seeing that in terms of the name-calling. I would say, Marky, that Governor DeSantis and former President Trump broadly represent a very similar strand within the Republican Party, the populist strand or MAGA strand, if you want to refer to it in that way. And so this isn't a classic political contest where you have a moderate against a more hardline figure. These are both people who are very much identified with that populist wing. It's not as if either of them would be representing the sort of Mitch McConnell or Kevin McCarthy wing of the Republican Party. It would be a fascinating contest. As I say, right now, former President Trump would be the favourite, but Governor DeSantis would be a formidable opponent, I think.
And my last question for you, Niall, the Georgia Senate race is headed for a runoff next month. Will Trump continue to campaign for Herschel Walker to try and gain that seat, even if Democrats already retain the Senate?
Well, it's always difficult to predict the former president's actions. It would change the whole calculus of that race quite a lot if Democrats control the Senate, which, as we know, they could do if they take the seat in Nevada, and that could be called as early as this evening. The Georgia runoff will be very different depending on whether that is the decisive moment in the battle for the Senate or not. Obviously, turnout would be affected by that kind of a question. Who that benefits, you can game that out in all kinds of ways. But Herschel Walker was behind, or is behind, in the votes cast in this initial election. But there is a historic pattern, for the most part, that Republicans gain in runoffs in Georgia. That pattern, of course, was disrupted 2 years ago when there were Senate runoffs, when then President Trump was still arguing that there was something shady about the election in Georgia, the general election a couple of months before.
Still a lot up in the air. Niall Stanage, thank you so much.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.